estoy ready. Buenas tardes. Ahora, calidad de moderador. De tesina de, acorde a la resolución número 1336/2023, que fija fecha y hora de la tesina con el título Categorization of Lesson Plan Activities in Science and Biology EFL Classes According to the Revised Bloom's Taxonomy, a cargo de las autoras Leticia Raquel Coronel Rojas y María José López Frutos, de la carrera de Lengua Inglesa del Instituto Superior de Lenguas. El día de hoy, miércoles 25 de octubre del 2023, en calidad de miembros del Tribunal Examinador nos acompañarán las profesoras Rocío Mazzoleni y Romina Bento. Buenas tardes, profesora.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Postulantes universitarias, buenas tardes. Buenas tardes, Leticia. Buenas tardes, María José.
Buenas tardes, profe.
Okay, so I'm also the president of this board. So you have 30 minutes to present your thesis, and then we'll have a few questions. Go ahead and start right away.
Okay, good evening, Professor, members of the committee. We would like to express our sincere gratitude for your presence here today. We are going to start with our thesis. The title is Categorization of Lesson Plan Activities in Science and Biology, English as a Foreign Language Classes, according to the revised Bloom's Taxonomy. The statement of the problem. Correct instructional strategies lead to effective teaching, but currently it is considered that curriculum focuses only on memorization and the highest level of thinking are not reached. Therefore, there is still a need to focus on suggestions on how to organize lessons in a more effective way by targeting the highest cognitive domains. This research analyzes teachers' planning to describe which levels of thinking are reached. Background information: for many teachers, planning strikes fear, but the intent behind curriculum planning should be to develop reflective members of society. This study focuses on the activities included by teachers in the chosen areas of science and biology to promote higher order thinking skills. Author explains that instruction is more than learning the facts. Using Bloom's taxonomy for planning is a great opportunity to help students conduct better in their daily life. The objectives of this thesis are to determine to what extent the teachers include Bloom's taxonomy levels of thinking under lesson planning, to establish which level of thinking are reached when using Bloom's taxonomy for lesson planning in the different subjects analyzed. The specific objectives are to examine Bloom's taxonomy, level in the activities, to determine which difficulties may arise for teachers when attempting to use Bloom's taxonomy in lesson plannings, and provide recommendations for teachers on how to better include activities in the lesson plan that tap into the higher levels of thinking. Yes. The research question. The main question is, to what extent do lesson plan in science and biology in EFL classes include activities that correspond to higher level thinking skills according to the revised Bloom's taxonomy? Also, we have 3 sub-questions, which are: how effective may the proposed activities be to provide scaffolding toward the highest level of thinking under the view of the revised Bloom's taxonomy? Which difficulties may teachers find when using the revised Bloom's taxonomy in their lesson plannings? And according to the teacher's perspective, what are some of the challenges that students face when they are encouraged to apply critical thinking? The purpose of the study: to describe which levels of thinking teachers aim at on their lesson plans through the descriptive approach and content analysis, to determine which activities are more challenging for students. In order to do so, a chart was used to analyze the qualitative values of the identifiable markers in order to reflect the cognitive domain, and also interviews were made to teachers. Additionally, this study aims at pointing that the revise Bloom's taxonomy is a reliable tool to determine activities that foster higher level of thinking. If the activities are organized, planning can be easier and more effective, and also categorizing activities can benefit critical thinking. The viability. Educational theories change constantly, but Bloom's taxonomy is an exception to this rule because it is still relevant even after more than 50 years of being published. It was revised in year 2000, but just some things were changed, but the theory is still relevant. It is also a key element in this study. Therefore, this study leaves the gate open for deeper and further studies. The contextual information. Paraguayan educational system consists of 4 levels, which are early childhood, primary, secondary, and higher education. This research is based on analyzing classroom planning of 8th grade, which is middle school, and 3rd year high school EFL classes. The theoretical framework. This research study was performed under the scope of constructivist learning, which states that learning is built on top of previous knowledge. The updated taxonomy includes verbs that correlate to each level of the cognitive stages to be built up in class. Educational traditional context facilitates only lower order thinking skills, but the reform-oriented and progressive education seeks to promote the acquisition of higher order thinking skills. Some definitions that were included in this thesis. Lesson planning, which is an educator roadmap with objective and techniques to make learning effective. Bloom's taxonomy, which is a system to classify intellectual skills and behavior significant to active learning. Lower order skills, which are basic skills like remembering, understanding, and applying. And higher order thinkings, which are skills that include synthesizing, analyzing, and comprehending. Critical thinking is a skill that entails analyzing information to make judgments.
In relation to the scope and limitations, in Paraguay, teaching English in public schools became mandatory in 2013. However, the curriculum is only limited to basic vocabulary and grammar. There are 2 different lesson plans that were analyzed here, and we compare the results, acting as cross-examination, because we analyzed 2 different subjects, science and biology, and also the different activities within these lesson plans. Limitations. Only a small sample at one private school was examined. Therefore, there is limited transferability. However, this does not weaken the study because this was not the aim of the study. We focus on the description and examination or analysis of the activities. Ethical concerns. The implementation of practical guidelines and protocols was taken into consideration. Therefore, permission was requested at all stages and to all the stakeholders. Any unnecessary data was eliminated from the lesson plans, and also the interview results, data that is related to the personal information of the participants, and that allowed teachers to be more open and sincere about their answers. Significance of the study. The findings of this study will help improve both planning and the teaching learning process, and this will also inspire learners to move from the simpler practices of description and memorization to the more profound stages of analysis, evaluation, and creativity. The aim here is also to know how to plan these activities by using the Bloom's taxonomy, and therefore turn the classes into student-centered lessons. This research study is significant to determine how drafting the plans can be more effective and to reach the highest cognitive domains by providing more demanding activities. Consequently, the findings in this study result in recommendations on how to promote higher level thinking through proper planning of the activities. Chapter 2 includes the literary review. The original Bloom's taxonomy was first published in 1956 by Dr. Benjamin Bloom and other colleagues. It was a theory to upgrade the teaching learning process from the lower level of memorization to the higher levels of analysis, evaluation, creativity, and problem-solving approach. And they came up with this theory because there was a need to categorize educational objectives. Bloom's taxonomy comprises 3 domains of academic learning. Cognitive or knowledge domain includes 6 levels: affective domain, and psychomotor domain. However, here in this study, only the cognitive domain was taken into consideration. The revised Bloom's taxonomy was first published in 1999. Dr. Lauren Anderson was the person in charge of this theory, and she was a former student of Bloom's, and updated version of Bloom's taxonomy. And the point of it was to correct some of the disadvantages of the original taxonomy. For example, there was criticism in relation to the use of nouns, and in the new taxonomy, we can see that the nouns were turned into verbs. The revised version comprises 6 talents in the cognitive process dimension. These abilities are categorized from easiest to the most difficult in the following order: recall, comprehend, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Such abilities are mentioned in this study as mark identifiers and were paired down with the information on the lesson plans. Critical thinking and Bloom's taxonomy. Many studies have been conducted in relation to the taxonomy to assess critical thinking. For example, for this study, we used a table or scoring matrix that is a reference to pair down the levels of thinking to the activities on the lesson plans to be analyzed. Bloom's taxonomy in science and biology lessons. Other research that were consulted were, for example, the ones referring to applied assessments to biology classes, and also the use of HOTS, high order thinking, in biology classes. Some research related to teachers' perspective were also used as a reference, and they are related to the updated taxonomy that has its advantages because teachers consider that verbs that correlate to each state are better organized, so it's easier to analyze the cognitive process. Teachers consider that pairing down these verbs using the revised taxonomy is more straightforward and less complex. Therefore, they consider that it is a tool that is more effective to build lesson plans. There is criticism to Bloom's taxonomy because some less expert educators think that the changes between the old taxonomy and the new taxonomy cause confusion. There is also little consensus about what seemingly self-evident terms like analysis or evaluation mean. Some researchers consider that activities such as authentic problems and projects cannot be mapped to the taxonomy because these people that criticize this also criticize taxonomies in general because they consider that they limit the cognitive aims. There is also an additive structure, and some people consider that this is difficult to apply because there is always the need to activate previous knowledge, and sometimes the classrooms are very active and there is lack of time to build knowledge from the start and from the lower levels. The revised taxonomy does not provide an assessment tool for integrative thinking skills. Here we have a graphic that compares the original Bloom's taxonomy of 1956 to the revised Bloom's taxonomy of 2001. We can see that the levels on the original taxonomy go from knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis to evaluation, and that changed from nouns to verb form on the revised taxonomy. And we have the first level: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create being the top tier, the higher levels that are related to critical thinking.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the methodological framework. The type of study, this research study is descriptive qualitative and analyzes lesson plannings to determine whether they focus on the lower degrees or higher degrees skills, as well as determining which plans are the most challenging for students and if they promote critical thinking. The setting, as mentioned before, it took place in the English department of a private school in Asunción, Paraguay. The EFL lessons are content-based and include highly specific and scientific vocabulary and knowledge. The participant and sampling. Participants are the teachers who come from diverse educational background and experience working at this private school in 2022, which also was the year of this study. Also, a non-probability sample was used, more specifically quota sampling, which is due to the convenience of the researchers to have access to the sample due to professional relationship. And this is because we work at this school, so we have access to the teachers, the lesson planners, and also the students. Data collection. The instrument used to gather the information to be analyzed were the classroom plans provided by the teachers. In the case of this research, document analysis was used as the primary method to gather the information to be analyzed, along with structured interviews to support the data obtained from the lesson plans. The structured interviews, an interview is a process in which a researcher and a participant engage in a conversation focused on questions related to a research study. An interview guide was used to provide structure and gather the requested information. The answers were later summarized on a chart. Data analysis. Thematic analysis was used to determine the patterns of words used on the lesson plans, matching the revised Bloom's taxonomy, providing values to the identifiable markers to reflect lower and higher order thinking skills.
Chapter 4 includes the results and analysis. The activities were pared down to the identifiable markers that are the verbs that were used by the teachers for the activities to determine their cognitive hierarchy. The resulting data was analyzed under a qualitative scope by providing values to the identifiable markers, levels 1 to 6 according to the revised Bloom's taxonomy, to reflect lower order thinking and higher order thinking. This is the table that we use as a reference. Here we can see that the levels assigned for the purpose of the studies are levels 1 to 6. Level 1 includes the cognitive level of remembering, and there is a list of wording used for those activities. The words that we found more frequently on the lesson plans were, for example, recall, define. Level 2 includes the understanding cognitive level. Some of the words that were more frequently found on the plans are, for example, classify. It could also be recall, restate. Level 3 includes applying. Some of the words that were found more frequently were illustrate, interpret, prepare. Level 4, analyzing, and some of the words that were more frequently on the lesson plans were, for example, outlined, debate, examine, analyze. Level 5, evaluating. That implies that learners make judgments using internal evidence and external criteria. Some of the more frequent words were, for example, rearrange, revise, create, and the creating level depends on how the activity is proposed to the students. Level 6 includes creating, and some of the more frequent words include evaluate, assess, judge, also appraise, and measure. Here, we are going to analyze the science lesson plan. This is a plan for 8th grade classes with different levels of English, A2 to B2. The units and activities were translated here in English because the original lesson plans were in Spanish for all the stakeholders to be able to comprehend them. And this is the table with the analysis of the science lesson plan. Here we can see that the thematic units were organized in one column. Then we have Bloom's cognitive levels, the criteria that are taken into consideration for the activities, and the levels assigned for the purpose of the study. In both lesson plans, the science and the biology lesson plan, the units start with exploration of previous knowledge. Here we can see that all of the units start with the remembering cognitive level, and they are paired down with the word recall to level 1. Then we have activities for level 2, and this is the understanding column. We have identify, recognize, those are some of the verbs that were found. The science lesson plan was easier to analyze because the verbs used in the activities were specifically the verbs from the revised taxonomy. So it was almost straightforward, which did not happen with the biology lesson plan. On this lesson plan, we also have for level 3, some activities like categorize, compare, differentiate, debate, and calculate for level 3. For level 4, we have analyzing, compare, differentiate. However, level 5 was one of the highlights of the activities on level 5 were the highlights in this lesson plan because there was a project. The biomes and ecosystem unit included modeling, and that implied artistic skills, design, construction, and it was a project that tapped into the highest levels of critical thinking depending on how the students interact, because with a project students can learn from each other by using teamwork, and they can also develop their own knowledge. These projects can be implemented as in the classroom for the school and also have an impact on the community. So researchers consider that these hands-on activities, real life experiences, are the most valuable in relation to the use of critical thinking. On level 6 for the science plan, we also have some activities that include judging, concluding, and also making recommendations. The students needed to prepare and work on an environmental gazette that was also prepared as a project. So then we have the biology lesson plan. The biology lesson plan, similarly to the science lesson plan, includes different levels of English, B1 to C1, and this is the analysis. It was the biology lesson plan in relation to the organization was similar to the science lesson plan. The plan starts with recalling information, exploring previous knowledge, level 1. Also, all the units finish with a feedback that belongs to level 2. And here we can notice that most of the activities in level 6 were more complex activities. And we have here in this plan more activities than the ones for level 6 in comparison to the science plan. The lesson plan here includes words such as assess, judge, recommend, and here the analysis was deeper and it demanded more interpretation because sometimes the teacher didn't use verbs and sometimes the verbs were different, not the ones included on the taxonomy, so we needed to use synonyms.
Okay, interviews with teachers and teachers' perspective. The two teachers interview are the ones that actually prepared the lesson, analyze. So even if the sample looks small, actually it constitutes a relevant tool as it allows deeper analysis and of how the plans are implemented in class. They were identified as teacher A and teacher B. In the first table, we will see this is actually the transcription, of the interviews that were made to the teachers. Some relevant information from the chart is that both teachers were familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, and they mentioned they took it into account to plan their classes. Both teachers agreed that critical thinking is the most relevant activity for students. Also, both agreed that activities like matching, listing, or drawing were the activities that students enjoy the most. These correspond to level 1 of the taxonomy. On the other hand, both agree that answering with their own words, which correspond to level 6 of Bloom, were the most challenging activities for a student. And also they said that students don't want to give their personal opinion. They rely on the opinion of other students. And both said that they would recommend using real life examples as a way to implement critical thinking on their lesson plan. In this second table, we can see the activities that were mentioned by the teachers, and they were classified under level 1 to 6. Teacher A mentioned that activities that are classified under level 1, like recalling the information, as well as level 2, which is understanding. None of them mentioned activities that were classified under level 3 or 5. Both teachers mentioned activities that can be categorized under level 4, for example, breaking information into constituent parts. And actually, teacher A was the one that mentioned using activities that tap into the highest level of thinking, which activities like put elements together to form a new functional whole, for example. However, teachers consider that even though critical thinking activities are the most relevant for their subject, said activities are the most challenging to implement. They consider it difficult to reach the upper levels of cognitive development, although this is essential to create relevant learning. The time or lack of time is another factor mentioned as a challenge when promoting higher order thinking activities in the classroom.
Chapter 5 includes the conclusion. The results suggest that the revised Bloom's taxonomy is a useful tool for teachers and students to trace learning. Both of the analyzed lesson plans include activities that promote higher level thinking skills. The biology lesson plan promoted more activities to reach the highest levels by performing more complex and integrated tasks. And we consider that the students were going to be able to perform those activities properly because they belong to the third year and also because of their level of English. The level reached by each activity depends on how deep the teacher is willing to go and the student's motivation, and we had that information from the interviews. Building scaffolding and starting the lessons from the first level using repetition and activating schemata was key to prepare students to deal with the more demanding activities. Teachers consider that critical thinking activities are relevant and the most challenging to implement in the classroom. However, as the plans show us, we consider that the motivation of teachers takes them to continue trying to implement these activities. They mentioned that students struggle to engage in basic activities such as those from level 2, understanding of the revised Bloom's taxonomy. Usually, students find it easy to engage in easier or less demanding activities. However, when they are presented with projects, for example, they get involved, and if the taxonomy is shared with them, they can also trace their own learning.
Okay, the implications. It is important for teachers to recognize the level of complexity of the tasks to students, assigned to students. Recognizing which part of the plans are the most challenging help teachers to provide tools to foster learner success. Using the taxonomy is more beneficial than detrimental for teachers and also for students. And it increases awareness of the process of acquiring knowledge. The result of this study can be socialized among educators in general to help them be aware of their learning, of their planning patterns. Also, by considering the result of this research, study educators and learners can take into consideration methods to enhance their learning. The recommendations focus on analyzing lesson plans of different subjects. A replication study might provide more insights on how critical thinking is promoted. We think that this chart, for example, can be used in different subjects in order to see what are the levels of the activities that we are planning for the students. Promote critical thinking using activities like to discuss, to debate, to present cause and effect. Those activities are the ones that will tap into the higher level thinking skills. Future researchers may focus on selecting the best activities to help students develop their own learning skills on the application of the chosen techniques that will raise student awareness regarding their own learning toward critical thinking. Finally, future researchers may focus on selecting the best activities to help students develop their own learning skills and provide recommendations on the application of the chosen techniques. And with this, we finish our presentation. And
Thank
this
you.
is
We added a little joke. Thank you.
Thank you, Leti and Majo. Um, First, we'll have some questions for you. Um, Miss Bento, do you have any questions for them?
Why did you choose biology and science? I know that you both work in this school where you took your sample, So, what made you choose science?
Because we wanted to show activities that actually promote critical thinking, and we consider that these activities are highly demanding.
Mhm. And do you think you could find some similar activities in other areas of knowledge? For example, I don't know, social studies or humanities?
We
Yes.
think we think this chart can be used for any subject. I think it will be very helpful for teachers.
Hmm.
Yes,
But
and there are critical thinking activities also that me as a social studies teacher, for example, I implement projects as well and debates. So those could be similar to the ones proposed by the biology plan, for example.
yes, okay. Thank you, girls. Miss Masoleni?
Hello. One, just before a reminder, this study was made from 7th grade onwards or
Grade.
The
8th grade?
science lesson plan it's for eighth grade, and the biology lesson plan for third year.
Okay, 3rd year.
Yes.
Okay, okay, uh, and you said that they had from B1 to B1 or B2 to C1. Is that right?
For
Their level of English.
eighth grade is A1 to B2 or A2 to B2, and for
Okay.
third year they can even reach C1.
Okay. So in a way, the teacher has to deal with different levels of language and prepare activities that will cater for these differences. And and my question is, in these students, I could see in their lesson plans that they plan using the Bloom's taxonomy, the Hobbes, the higher order ones. But were they familiar? Did you notice? Did you when you did
According to the
some of these
interviews that were made to the teachers, both were familiar with the Bloom's taxonomy, and
the,
they even said they use it to plan their classes, like
mhm.
to start with lower order thinking skills, and then go up the ladder.
Yes, and the
Yeah,
students are
but
also
you meant
familiar with the taxonomy because these classes are aimed for students that are going to choose degrees in the science fields. So
yeah.
they are really focused on their learning. So they are
Mhm,
really interested in learning about different learning strategies. The
mhm.
taxonomy is very useful for that, and even different approaches towards learning. So
Yeah,
that's why.
yeah, you did mention that the teachers were familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. By any chance, did you also find out in your interviews if the students were familiar before with some of the activities, or they were doing mostly, they were staying mostly at, because you mentioned that most plannings address or are directed as lower order. So,
Yeah.
did the teachers mention that this was the first experience? I know probably was not the aim of the study.
No,
I'm
we
just
didn't
curious.
mention that, but I know the books, and the books include also information about this, about different strategies towards learning. So students by now they know the taxonomy and they are used to that. Also,
Okay.
the lesson plans are prepared as a consensus because
Mhm.
sometimes the subjects change from one year to year. So the organization is similar, and the students are also used to that, to
Okay.
building knowledge.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
I think
you.
they're familiar with starting with easier tasks, and then
Mhm.
like go to the more difficult ones.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question. I need to ask. I want to ask. I think Leticia is the one who projects the presentation. I
Yes.
want you to go to the chart that you presented for your analysis for the lesson plan
Okay.
for
I will
either
go.
eighth grade or third year.
Okay, let me do it. Which one? The science plan or the
Either
biology?
one of them. You can do the science one or the other one. It doesn't matter. For I want you to go to the one that is for levels 5 and 6.
Okay. Um, I'm getting there. Here.
See, I don't have your written report handy. That's why I'm not sure if this is how you put it in your report or when you transcribed it for the presentation. There might have been a confusion, because I want you to take a look at, it says evaluating and then it says creating in the other one, and I think they're they're mixed up. So if you look at evaluating, judge, conclude, recommend is part of evaluating, and collect, assemble, construct, and design is part of creating. So I don't know if this is like this in your thesis, and when you prepare your presentation, they got mixed together, or if it's actually mixed together in your thesis, because I don't have it in front of me. I don't remember this being an issue when I read it. That's why I was surprised when I saw the presentation. Does that make sense to you, what I'm saying? So if you look at the top one, it says evaluating, and then in the one that says level 6 on the right hand, if you look at the words on the third column, it's all evaluating: rate, evaluate, assess, judge, score, recommend, conclude. And the other one, it's create, compose, design, arrange. So I think they're just mixed together on this table for whatever reason. I'm not sure what
Okay.
happened here. And I just want you to, um,
The chart that we use as a model includes evaluate on the creating section in
Yeah.
level 6.
yeah, because if you look at the words on the right, they're all related to creating in the one that is on top, and then the words that are on the other one, they're all related to evaluating.
Can I go to the biology plan to see how that was shown?
I just want to make sure that for the final paper,
Mm-hmm.
we make sure that this is correct, because otherwise, your paper will stay in the library, and this is important. So if you look at creating there in the middle column on the right one, it says assess, judge, evaluate. So those are words that are all related to evaluating. And compose and formulate and propose, create, those are all words that are related to creating. I'm not sure whether your source was, there must have
Actually,
been a mix up somewhere.
Actually, our source is like that because if you see in the first table, Leti, the one
Yes.
that has the words, you can see that creating we have the words like evaluate, assess, judge,
Yeah, but when
value.
I saw that, I already realized that there was
Uh-huh.
some sort of, but I don't know if when you transfer from your literature, from the chapter or the article where you use the chart, there was some mix up, because I'm just realizing this right now, and I apologize for not having realized this before, because your paper is very well done. I mean, the analysis that you did, I mean, it's the only thing that it's confusing here is that all the words on the level 5 here are related to creating, and all the words in the level 6 here are related to evaluating, and that needs to be um, fixed. I hope. I know that it might seem a little bit late, but it's never too late because we can easily just change a few pages in at least one of your copies, so that and your analysis will remain the same. You're just gonna have to move, the activities are related to the words that are used to describe here. And I just want you to take a look and make sure that maybe the source that you use to get this chart is correct. Maybe there was a mix up at some point, I don't know where, but Miss Masoleni had something to say about this.
Yeah, and some authors put, instead of evaluate, they put the word test in creating. Maybe if you change evaluate for testing.
Yes, but if you look at the words on the left, all of the words there are not related to evaluating.
Mm,
And the words on the right, they're all related to evaluating, because it says rate is
mm,
related to evaluating. Evaluate is, of course, related to evaluating. Assess is also related to evaluating. Judge is also related to evaluating. Value is also related to evaluating.
mm,
Revising, so this is why I think there was just a mix up somewhere at some point,
mm,
that it's very easily fixed by switching the words in your table, and just rearranging your tables a little bit so that they match. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes, we have to check our sources again.
Yes,
Yes.
and so please do, because I'm I would like to think I'm correct in this assessment, because I mean, look at all the words. Score is also related to rating. Is that, I mean, as compare is also, measure is also, so many of those, justify, those are all words that are related to evaluating. And then when you look at the other one, it's not as clear. That's why it might be confusing. But you have create, compose, design, arrange, um, formulate, propose, organize, manage, prepare, assemble, develop. Those are all words that are related to creating. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, so in that regard, I still would like to congratulate you, because you did a wonderful job looking through the activities, and I just don't want this to remain, and then someone coming later and saying, well, this is not right, and how come they did not realize, and the evaluators didn't realize either. And so that's the only reason why I would like you to take a look at it again, and if possible, we can fix at least the PDF version to go in the website, so that we can have that in the way it should be.
Okay.
And then before we go, I would like to ask you something. What is the most valuable lesson you learned from doing this project?
In my case, in my side, for example, I think the most valuable thing I learned is that we can make an impact on students by planning our class carefully and including activities that are really going to end in a learning for them. So it is important to take into account this theory in order to not to plan just on the lower levels, but to do more and go to the higher levels.
Okay, I don't know,
Uh,
Leti, if you want to add something to that.
yes. I learned that it is easier to plan if we use a rubric or a framework. And that gives us like power to make decisions. And they are even more powerful if we share the information with students. so
Wonderful.
they can trace their own learning.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're gonna, you can stop sharing. We're going to ask you to leave the room for a few minutes. We're going to deliberate and then we're going to ask you back.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Majo, why does your user says Ceci?
Okay.
It's my daughter. I don't know how to do.
You have to make sure you come in with your right.
Yes, your user. Because
Yes,
for the real session, that was your it was said Maria
No,
Jose
yes.
she
Lopez
can't, because that's the one. See, this is what happens. Google uses the one that's first signed on as the default.
as
So
a
when you
default
when you go in, you have to make sure that you enter with the right one.
with the right
Okay.
account when you manage many accounts, like
So
we usually do.
do you need me to change my user?
It
No,
would be better because I think we need to take a picture, Valentina.
yes, yes. Please do. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
Okay,
please,
we're gonna wait for
for Majo,
to
not Ceci.
well, the picture can be taken with capturing from the video, but still, it has to
Yes,
be, yeah.
true that. I forgot about technology.
Well, that's, still, it's a good thing that, when did we do the virtual one? So Majo's almost back, and then
There she is. Now
there's
she is Maria Jose Lopez.
Okay, so congratulations, Majo and Leti. You are now licenciadas. We are very glad to give you a passing grade, and you did a very good job. Your work is very valuable. And because of that, we would like to ask you to please. I went and checked your source, and during the time we were debating, and there was some confusion there when you transcribed it into your paper. So we would like you to fix just those pages, so that and only on one copy, so the one that stays in the library, so that we will make justice to your all your hard work, and then whomever comes and reads it in the future, they can see the great job that you did. Okay, so
Thank you.
so congratulations. You
Thank
are now
you.
licenciadas,
Thank you.
and so can you? We ask you that you do that as quickly as possible, and you can keep the other copies for yourselves, and you can choose to keep them as they are, or you can fix all of them. That's up to you. But we just need. Actually, it's two copies, one for our library and one for the Biblioteca Central, for the Central Una library. So, and only you just need to ask the you can even do it yourselves, like you can cut the pages and like paste the right ones. You don't have to have the rebind. I mean, you can do it two ways. You can rebind it, and that's a little bit of a hassle, or you can just cut the pages and make sure that you paste it so that the right pages stay, because the page numbering will not change, because the tables are going to be the same. Okay, so congratulations anyway. Your picture was funny. We are so glad that you finished. And please tell all of your friends who haven't finished yet to please follow your footsteps and also finish your thesis. Okay?
Teacher
Thank
Valentina,
you.
thank you for calling us and for organizing those classes, because that is what saved us from procrastination.
Yeah.
Well, I
We
am so
finally
glad.
decided to
Yeah.
start working again. Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
very much for
thank you to
everything. To
Teacher
all of you.
Romina and also to Teacher Rocio, because of the time that you invested in reading our thesis and for being here.
Yes, and I apologize again for not realizing sooner that about the mix up with the verbs,
Yes.
so I put that on my shoulders as well as a reader, but we want that to be correct in the library, so that's why we want you to please make sure that you correct in the PDF also, so that we can put it, because all PDFs now go on this ISL website, or the library site, so that anybody can come and read your thesis. and then it's a great contribution, and so you should be very proud of yourselves.
Thank you, thank you. And are there scores for the? Are there scores
Yes.
or just a passing grade?
Well, you got a passing grade with a 4. We cannot give you a 5 because we
Yes,
think
I
there
understand.
are some little issues even before the whole mix up with the words. But a 4 is a very good grade in our minds, and
Yes.
especially considering all the time it took, and coming back. We are very, very glad that you were able to actually come back and finish your thesis. So we are very proud of you, and you should be very proud of yourselves, and your family here should also be very proud of you. So we are very happy. The graduation ceremony will be next year around September. So if you want to participate, that is up to you.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very
Okay,
much.
so now we can take a picture. So if you can ask your family if they want to turn on the cameras. Um, si pueden prender la cámara, vamos a sacar una fotito antes de irnos con cara de felicitaciones. Terminé mi tesis, tienen que decir ahora como parte de ahora. Digan, tesis. Ahí estamos. Muchas gracias y felicitaciones nuevamente a ambas. Estamos muy contentas y muy felices con ustedes. We wait for you if you can tomorrow in the next couple of days to come, and we're going to be also submitting our grades tomorrow so that you can come, and once we sign all the actas, then you can start the process of requesting your transcripts for your diplomas.
Okay.
The
Okay,
sooner the better.
okay.
But you
Thank
don't
you.
have to wait for the corrected thesis to do that. I mean, we trust you that you will do that because it's in your interest to have that corrected. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, okay. We will.
Okay.
We will do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and you guys have a wonderful evening.
You
You
too.
Congratulations
Thank you
again.
so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye bye.
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 Bye. Thank you.